Welcome to Love Lies Beneath. I'm Zet Harbor. And I'm glad to have you here. Do you feel like stress, fear, or pain take up way too much of your energy? Have you wondered if you'll ever be free of that heaviness of your past? Do you long to feel as good on the inside as your life looks on the outside? In this podcast, you'll discover the story of who you really are and how to set yourself free. Together, we're going to travel into those wild spaces of our inner landscapes and dive deeply into the rich soil of our lives, reclaiming soul through story and healing our hearts. My book, Love Lies Beneath, is the map. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any of this enriching journey. And now, let the adventure begin. The Heroine's Journey with kind curiosity. When you set out on an adventure, it's essential to have a really good map. The same is true for these journeys into our wild inner spaces, those wild inner landscapes. They're alive inside of us. We just don't really look at them very often. In fact, the very voices that call us to look at these wild inner landscapes are often the ones that sound like stress, fear, and pain. And because they do, our first instinct is to reject them, to push them away, to fear them as though they are zombies trying to break into our house and eat our faces off. In earlier episodes, we've talked about those zombies and their true nature. They are the parts of ourselves that we couldn't accept, we couldn't embrace, we couldn't even allow ourselves to see. And as a result, because we thought they were ugly, they became ugly. And because we refused to see them, they wandered like the undead in the front yard of our home, just waiting for us to open that door so that they could push their way in. And what is such a miracle is to experience that moment, that very first time when you, instead of using all your force and all your strength to keep that door from opening, instead of that, you allow that zombie to step through the doorway and you say to her, I see you. You are worthy of being, and I embrace you. As you wrap your arms around her to welcome her home, I appreciate you. Let her know that you're grateful, that she never left, and that she's still here today. And then when you tell her, I love you, that first moment changes everything. And from then on, every zombie can be welcomed home as a beloved. This is the heroine's journey. It is the separation from the parts of ourselves. It's always a painful separation. It's always a painful loss of identity. Then the struggle, the wandering, the being lost, the feeling alone, bereft, unaided. And finally, some magical force or being appears and invites us to follow them on the path back to ourselves. I want to read the next section from my book called The Heroine's Journey. It's always best to start at the beginning, Glinda the Good Witch, the Wizard of Oz. So far, we have been looking at the map of this territory. It tells us how to travel to the love that lies beneath. Like looking at a paper map, it is helpful and gives us a sense of familiarity with the terrain ahead. However, the map is not the territory. It is time to gather your snacks and pack your sunscreen, water, and hat. Now is the time to put on those boots and begin the journey we have been talking about. To find my beginning, I needed to remember how I had arrived at my present state and destination. In order to do that, I needed to uncover my origin story. This helped me locate my entry point on the map, to find the path that was the right one for me. This was not easy, and in fact, actually felt quite painful. Fortunately, I had mentors who applied respectful and caring pressure to help me dive down deep enough. Here is my origin story. I'd forgotten who I was because the world wanted me to forget. It wanted me to believe a story that I was small and weak, and that having the ability to sense and feel were flaws. The world wanted me to believe that being soft was a problem, my problem. It told me in no uncertain terms to comply or face dire consequences like ridicule, punishment, or even abuse. You see, it all began when I was young and vulnerable. Back then, I had no choice but to accept the stories that said I shouldn't feel so much, care so deeply, and especially want to be loved more fully than was being offered. To defy what I was being told was to risk my life emotionally and maybe even physically. And so I did the best that my young mind could. I sacrificed pieces of myself to make my life and hopefully the world a better place. Then I created more stories to help me justify giving up parts of myself. The stories I created became woven into the fabric of my identity. They were the stories that kept enough of me intact so that I could live the life I have. They were the stories that allowed me to at least pretend to ignore my pain and suffering as long as I could to get by. You see, once upon a time, I'd set sail full of innocence and promise, trusting that those who were sailing the ship of my young life were skillful and qualified. Unfortunately, not so much. Along the way, I endured more than one shipwreck, some of them life-threatening. And like a survivor of a shipwreck, I'd long to reach the safety of the shore, but unseen currents below kept me from ever reaching land. Instead, I clung to the flotsam and jetsam of the broken vessel to keep myself from disappearing into the depths. I felt the pain of the struggle, the burning of the thirst to be released, and the hopelessness of the seemingly impossible. And so my hope and suffering went on with no end in sight. Along the way, I hurt others and I hurt myself until I discovered a way to soothe the pain of the betrayals and to ease my burden of shame. Finally, I realized that it was absolutely within my grasp to set down my suffering and live the awe-inspiring life that is my destiny. The journey began by learning the stories that had saved me. I'd clung to them for so long. I'd almost forgotten that they were bits and pieces of wreckage. No matter how waterlogged and heavy they might have been, they had kept me from drowning. I'd relied on them to keep me afloat in the choppy seas of my life for so long that the idea of letting them go felt frightening. However, when the truth came, I wasn't afraid anymore. The truth that I was now free to remember was that I was born to swim. The truth is that my abilities to feel deeply, to know intuitively, and to care fiercely were, in fact, my superpowers. Deep down, I'd always known it. Remembering the truth set me free. I don't just tread water anymore. I get to leap and splash and dive into the depths and bring back the treasures of my inner sea, because the depths are where I've come from and where I'm always welcomed and cherished. And that's when I knew that it was entirely possible to live my real story, to free myself of the pain of those original betrayals and shed the burden of shame, to joyfully and lovingly celebrate the beauty that is me. It was the moment that I discovered the secret, when I heard the call of the depths. A voice was reminding me of my real home. That's when I began to feel the debris of my earlier shipwrecks start to release their hold on me. It was in following the call that I found the path I'd been seeking for a very long time. It was this journey that soothed my pain, eased the burden of my shame, and opened my heart to loving and celebrating myself. Kind curiosity. In this book, I share a collection of traditional tales with you. Each one is a part of me that I love and cherish as a wise and compassionate relative. I have lived beside them for many years, some nearly a quarter of a century. Day after day, week after week, year after year, I have gleaned such gentle, rich wisdom from them. They will be a part of me until there is no more me. Most of the tales I have included feature a heroine who is a maiden whose world is abruptly and sometimes violently upended. This will open up a path of extraordinary discovery that would not have been possible without that crisis point. How she responds, what she feels, and who she becomes are the wealth waiting to be claimed. Let her be a mirror for you. There is something significant to know before you begin this story journey. Typically, the heroine does not employ the tools and weapons of the hero. While he is slaying dragons, she relies upon cleverness, kindness, and the power of her heart. The heroine is never rescued by someone else. It is through her trials and her own good care that her power is restored. Love lies beneath. How reclaiming my soul through story became the secret to healing my heart is my invitation to you to journey with me to this inner world of story. Be initiated into your place as the heroine of your own life. Discover how the heroine has to agree to leave the ordinary world and the identity she has worn for years to take the journey of discovering and recovering who she truly is. These journeys are filled with betrayals, grief, exile, reunion, love, and reconciliation. Like I did, I hope you see parts of yourself and your own stories within these tales. Explore them. Look deeply and with kind curiosity into these mirrors of your own soul. Embrace and appreciate the wisdom they hold. Listen from that still place in the center of your being. Hear the call of the love that lies beneath, beckoning you to come home. Now you know that you don't need to wait for anyone else to save you. You are the heroine of your own life, and it is through your kindness, your cleverness, and the strength of your heart that you will come home to yourself, that you will step into your powerful, true identity. Like every heroine, you need your origin story. You need to know where you came from, what happened to you, how you responded, what stories did you tell to yourself because you absolutely had to. Those stories were the very thing that could staunch the torrential flow of life force that was caused by the wounds you endured when you were small and vulnerable and tender. It is in traveling into those stories and reclaiming the love that lies beneath them that you will emerge like the heroines in the stories of this book. You will emerge into your most magnificent, most true self and allow your brilliance and your beauty to shine into the world. I'm Zed Harbor. This is Love Lies Beneath. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a single bit of this exciting adventure. And visit loveliesbeneath.com for show notes, resources, and to reach out and set up a virtual coffee date with me. Let's find your origin story and get you all set so that you can begin your journey into your wild inner landscapes in order to come home to yourself. Guruvmila Mahagat.